Hi everyone, this is Lori from My File Addiction. Today I'm going to show you how to properly check the size of a rhinestone file and how to properly resize it if you need to. So for my files that I sell, I include two SVG files inside the folder. One of them will be a regular SVG file, and then the other one will have Cricut Brother added to the end of the file name. And these are the files that you are going to upload into your Cricut Design Space program. Okay, they've been properly formatted, and as you can see, the file will contain some measurements. The measurements are basically for Brother Scan and Cut users because their program will shrink the size of a file, but for Cricut Design Space users, it's a good way of double checking to make sure your file is sized correctly before you go ahead and cut it. Because if it's not, if a file is not sized the correct size, it's not going to cut the correct size holes for the stone size that's indicated on the listing image. Okay, so I've brought in 4 different files, and each one is kind of worded a little bit differently. So I wanted to kind of explain what I mean when I give you this measurement. So the first one up at the top is my script font. When I place the measurement note within the file, like this, it's not an add-on at the bottom here. It's actually within the size of the file. This you can tell when you bring it in and it's grouped. You can look at your measurements, and this measurement will match exactly what the file is before it's been ungrouped. Okay, so this is 61.614, which is this measurement, by 16.54, which is the height. Okay, so now at this point, what you can do is you can ungroup the file, and then you would be able to delete this measurement and you wouldn't need it anymore. So and then you can start assembling your letters and building your word that you needed to build. It's important with rhinestone files or letters, I'm sorry, that you don't change the size of the letter once you've confirmed the measurements. When you do, those circles also change sizes. So if you found out that you were working with a longer word and you were using this particular font and it happened to be 13 inches long, and you're like, well, that's just too long for what I want to put on my shirt, you can't just all of a sudden change the size of the file and say, I'm going to shrink it down to 10 inches. That also changes the size of the circles. So if it's too big, you can't use an SS10 stone. You would have to either try to change the size to where the circles are for an SS6 stone, or use a different font. That's why it's good to have a variety of different fonts for rhinestone letters, because they're not a one-size-fits-all. So that's kind of an important note to mention. So let's go on to the next one here. This one, when I first started doing this, I referred to the note as saying each template should measure. Okay, people were getting a little confused at what I meant by template. Template, I'm talking about the black boxes. Okay, so the black boxes that I put around each design piece are going to be basically the same size. The piece inside the black box are going to be 2 different measurements. So instead of giving you 2 different measurements, I'm going to give you one, because each black box is the same size. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to click on just the box to find out what the size of the box is. Now we have to be careful, because when you click on what you think is like in this piece where I clicked on the black area and I'm thinking I'm clicking on the box, but if you looked over on your right side, this shows you the piece that you selected, and it actually shows that I selected the free piece on the inside. So my measurement of that piece is smaller than my box, so that's not going to match the measurement that I have down here. Okay, so you can either make sure you just click the very edge of that black box and it's only going to select the box. See over here, you can see I selected that piece, or you can actually go over to your right side and select. See how I'm clicking on these boxes and it's actually selecting just the box. So see, both measurements are exactly the same, and they match the measurements that I have down here. Another way is what we call Marquee Select. You hold down your left click on your mouse and you draw an imaginary box around your pieces. Now if I accidentally touch this, it's going to select the measurement. That's not what I want. So you have to make sure, and sometimes you have to zoom in to get a little bit more control, but you want to just make sure you're selecting just the piece with the box around it. And as you can see, the measurements match. Okay, so because people were getting a little confused about that, my new files, I say each box should measure. Okay, so this is basically the same thing as this. I just reworded it differently. So, you know, again, you're going to make sure you click on just the boxes to double check the size. So on this particular one, I've actually added the measurement down below. So if when this comes in, I ungrouped it already, so I'm going to group it back again. Okay, so when this comes in, you're going to see something like this, and you're going to be like, wow, that does not match the measurements that she put down here. Well, it's because the note on here was not part of the measurements that I gave you. Okay, I told you the file above here it will measure. So what you need to do is you need to ungroup. Then you would need to Marquee Select. So we're going to start a left click, hold down our left click, draw an imaginary box just around the design pieces, not the note. And as you can see, the measurements match up here. Okay, so since I've done these, I've now actually made an effort of trying to fit the measurements somewhere into the area where it doesn't change the size of the file measurements. So when it's grouped together, the measurements will come in at the correct size. Okay, so now as far as resizing a design piece. Okay, so this gets a little confusing. In this case with the letters, if you made an adjustment, because this is, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the measurements for a complete group of pieces. Okay, if you make any adjustments to those pieces and you move them out of place, you're changing the measurements. Okay, so you will never be able to get them back to that. So you basically, something like this or something like this, and if you have moved any of the pieces, basically you need to bring back in the file and start from scratch. Okay, things like this where I give you the box measurements, these are the only ones that you would physically be able to resize. So in this case, I'm going to adjust the size here. So if you found out that these did not match up, okay, so what you need to do is you need to make sure that you select both the black box and the design piece on the inside. You cannot just, even though I tell you that the box should measure, you can't just resize the box, because all that will do is resize the box and the design piece is still going to stay small. Okay, so we need to adjust that design piece back up to the original size. So you're going to Marquee Select, so you're going to hold down your left click and you're going to Marquee Select both the box and the design piece, and then you're going to go up to the top, and as long as your little lock here is shows that it's locked, you can just type in one of the measurements. So for the width, I'm going to type in 9.049, and I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it resized the height of the design to the original size, which is 9.934. Okay, so with rhinestone designs, you have to be very precise. Those circles have to be a certain size in order to cut the correct size holes for stones. Okay, so as the designs change, so do the circles too. So making sure that everything is sized correctly is very important, so that you don't waste your material cutting a design that is the incorrect size, and then your stones won't fall into the holes correctly. So I hope this information was helpful, and have a great day.